So this is the sea turtle motif, and we're going to paint this very whimsically. So if you want to take time to do it more meticulously, you're more than welcome. I'm going to take a first layer here of just going over the shell with a little bit of a wash here, very lightly, with a very light color, because I will be going back over this after it dries in a little bit. Just so that it doesn't ever get kind of a white appearance. All right, got that down there, and we'll come back to it in a little bit. And I've got this kind of beigey color. I need a lot of water on here. Here's my strip that I include in every take and paint. Should have one. I'm going to do the same thing and just kind of come over this area here, and I promise you that this is just from my imagination. So if you are a marine biologist, you're welcome to make sure that all of the colors are exactly as they should be. I'm using artistic license here. I'm actually going to go over all of this, and then when it dries, I'll add those details. Come along the bottom here. Okay, I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and I've got some coral colors mixed up, and you can see in the frame, if you matted this, would go here, so that's why that line is missing. But I'm leaving white of the paper and kind of dancing my brush within those lines just to kind of get that look that coral has with the little spacing in it. Not trying to get it too perfect, dabbing a little bit of pigment in here as I go. Like so. And if you fill it in too much, you can always go back over with a layer of orange, and your light color will become what mine is, or the white of the paper. So see, it's got that texture in it, and we can go ahead and do a few of those now that we're getting warmed up. Add a little more orange. Okay. Now this is a little bit of a different tone, and that's fine because the ocean is full of different colors. And I'll add a little bit of orange. This is my tropical set. You're welcome to use any of the paints that you have at home. And I'll let that dry before I add that coral in there. And now, really did want that a little more orangey. So we have this one right behind our turtle, so that should be dry enough to come in here. And I want to get right along that line so that it looks like it is in the background and not in the foreground. So I'm carefully going along there. You want a really tiny brush for this one. Hopefully you have one at home, or the ones that I sell in my store. And there's a little more of that orange underneath here. Okay. So while we're letting that dry, we'll come in here and do some of this kind of seaweed kelp. kind of went outside the lines, but I'm okay with that. And if you aren't, you can pull it back if you make a mistake, or I can always draw another line right there with a micron pen. I can paint over it, or with just any pen once it's dry. So I'm going to leave a little bit of the white of the paper there, just to make it look like it's got that ribbon in it. And now I'm going to tap in a little bit more pigment. I'm not really trying to get a texture on these other than to make it look like it's twisting. So I'll smooth those out where I deposited some paint. And I realize this right here is actually coral, so get that going. All right, now, actually, let me get a little bit more of the edge on here. I don't want that line to show up as much as it is. That'll kind of distract us from that pen line. Give us a little bit of shadow there. Okay, and I'll kind of do the same thing over here. All right, and I'll do some over here. It's all about the layers, so I'm going to go and finish up. I'm going to go ahead and get this so that I get it out of the way when I go in to do my shell. Here. Like I said, you really want to be the most careful right around your main subject here being the turtle. Okay, and then also we've got these bubbles. We can do a few of those. You can see you can either do a really light blue or take some of your, and what you want to do is leave some white of the paper, and that'll make it look like it's actually round. You can't do that for the little ones. And we'll come up here and get those. And you're welcome to paint the whole thing. You just want to be careful you don't saturate your paper so much that it buckles. I've added some tiki into this palm color here to get a nice kind of hunter green, and I'm going to start by coming in here. I'm doing these green. I could do them a little bit brown. And just with the very tip, this brush is kind of stiff, which is nice. I can just come in here. If you have a very long, wispy brush, it could be kind of hard, so you'll have to just practice. Make sure you feel confident. I'm going to kind of go around each of these little areas. Adding some pigment in here. Watching the lines so that I can get varied areas to his shell. When I flipped it around, I got to be careful because some of this is kind of running and I don't want it to drip. But you can see by putting that first layer down, we get more dimension here. And now we've got that top layer. I'm going to add a little bit of that brown into here and a couple of those spots. And this will turn out very textured. So if you like that, this is the way you can achieve that look. I'm just kind of, you see, sort of distributing that brown into, and it's kind of pushing all that green pigment around, and it's kind of fun actually. So we'll let that dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to go over here, and I have a black in this. Get this gray. If you need to make your own, I think I've got hints in there. Carefully going around his eye to leave a little bit of the white of the paper in there. And this has to be dry in order to, and you really want to practice on your paper to do a really fine line, or I suggest to people just wait till you're done and do it with a pencil or a marker so you don't make a really fat smile on your turtle. See how cool those are turning out? It's not like you'd really have a shadow in the ocean like that, but you can always come in here and kind of take that color and pop it in. Just be consistent.